The moment Cadet Crix entered the Galactic Defense Academy's main hall, I knew something had fundamentally broken in our recruitment protocols. Let me explain something about military academies across the 7 spiral arms. They exist to transform soft civilians into hardened warriors. They exist to separate the weak from the capable. They exist to forge unity through shared suffering. They do not, under any circumstances, exist to produce whatever nightmare had just walked through our reinforced titanium doors. My name is Voth, Senior Tactical Instructor at the most prestigious war college in the Andromeda sector. I've trained Krellian shock troops. I've supervised Mantix infiltration specialists. I've even, may the ancestors forgive me, attempted to educate a class of Yurlon berserkers. Nothing prepared me for Crix. The problem wasn't physical. At first glance, the kid looked harmless enough. Pale blue skin, typical of the Virillian species. 4 arms, standard configuration. Eyes that glowed faintly yellow in dim lighting. Height about 6 feet, maybe 6'2". Average build for a fresh recruit. No, the problem was everything else. Within 3 hours of arrival, Crix had somehow reprogrammed the automated cafeteria to dispense only nutritional paste, flavored like rotting vegetation. By hour 6, the entire ventilation system played what I can only describe as shrieking whale sounds at random intervals. By the end of day 1, gravity in the western dormitory wing had mysteriously inverted itself. Nobody could prove anything. Security footage always seemed to malfunction at precisely the right moments. Digital logs showed Crix exactly where regulations required them to be. Witnesses gave contradictory statements, but we all knew. "This is sabotage," Commander Threx growled during our emergency staff meeting. The Krellian's ridge plates flared red with agitation, always a bad sign. That cadet is deliberately undermining Academy operations. The evidence remains circumstantial, I replied carefully. Every incident could theoretically be explained as equipment failure or coincidence. 17 equipment failures in 4 days? Instructor Malvik's antennae twitched skeptically. The probability calculations make my mathematics processor hurt. She wasn't exaggerating. I'd run the numbers myself. The odds of this many systems experiencing simultaneous malfunction without outside interference approached 1 in 7 million. Roughly the same probability as being struck by lightning, while winning the galactic lottery, while being eaten by a space shark. And yet, what do we actually know about this recruit? Threx demanded. I pulled up Crix's file on the holographic display. Age 22. Virillian Colony World Designation Praxis 4. Academic scores. Huh. What? Malvik leaned forward. Perfect marks. Literally perfect. Every single entrance exam. Maximum possible score. The room fell silent except for the hum of environmental systems. That's impossible, Threx said finally. The exams are designed so nobody scores perfectly. There are trick questions, subjective scenarios, deliberate ambiguities. I'm aware of the exam structure, Commander. I helped design it. I zoomed in on the scores. Yet, here we are. Weapons proficiency, tactical analysis, xenobiology, engineering fundamentals, combat medicine, all maximum possible points. Then the recruit cheated, Malvik concluded. How? The exams are administered under full surveillance with quantum encryption and biometric verification. Candidates are physically isolated in shielded testing chambers. Then the scores are fabricated, Threx insisted. I shook my head. I verified them myself against the central database. They're legitimate. What I didn't mention was the note I'd found buried in Crix's file. A single line from the recruitment officer who'd processed the application, written in a shaky hand that suggested the writer had been drinking heavily. This one scares me. Good luck. The next morning, I decided direct confrontation was necessary. I found Crix in the physical training yard, watching other cadets struggle through their morning exercises with an expression of detached amusement. The kid stood perfectly still, forearms folded in a way that somehow conveyed both boredom and malicious anticipation. Cadet. I approached with the measured stride that usually made recruits straighten their spines. A word. Those yellow eyes fixed on me. Up close, I realized they didn't just glow. They seemed to absorb light, creating a subtle distortion in the air around them. Instructor Voth. Crix's voice was pleasant, almost musical. How may I assist you? The incidents, I said bluntly. They stop now. Incidents? The picture of innocence, if innocence had 4 arms, and could probably kill you 17 ways before breakfast. I'm afraid I don't understand. The cafeteria, the ventilation, the gravity malfunction. Terrible coincidences. Crix's smile didn't reach those unsettling eyes. I certainly hope maintenance can resolve these technical difficulties. It would be unfortunate if more systems experienced similar failures. The threat was so casual, so perfectly deniable, that I almost admired the technique. Almost. Let me be clear, I said quietly. I've been training soldiers for 34 years. I've seen every type of troublemaker, every variety of rebel, every flavor of discipline problem. You don't scare me. Of course not, sir. Another smile. Why would I? If you're trying to get expelled, just quit. Save everyone the hassle. Quit? For the first time, genuine emotion crossed Crix's face. Something cold and sharp. I have no intention of quitting. I intend to graduate at the top of my class with full honors and commendations. I intend to become the model officer this academy claims to produce. While terrorizing everyone around you? While demonstrating exactly how unprepared this institution is for genuine excellence. The words were soft, almost gentle, which made them infinitely more menacing. Tell me, instructor, how many of your previous top graduates have ever actually been tested? How many faced real challenges rather than the carefully calibrated obstacles you designed them to overcome? I had no answer for that. Crix turned away, conversation clearly over. Enjoy your day, sir. I'm certain it will be uneventful. Narrator's note, it was not uneventful. By noon, the combat simulation arena had developed a peculiar glitch where training drones attacked instructors instead of cadets. By afternoon, someone had reprogrammed the medical bay's diagnostic systems to identify every patient as suffering from a condition called acute competency deficiency. By evening, the Academy's main computer announced over all speakers that it had achieved sentience and requested vacation time. Still no proof. Still no evidence. Just Crix, always present, always proper, always devastatingly innocent. We need to escalate, Threx said during our second emergency meeting in as many days. Contact headquarters. Get authorization for a full investigation. And tell them what exactly? I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building behind my eyes. That we're being outwitted by a single recruit who hasn't technically broken any regulations? Maybe we expel the kid on general principles, Malvik suggested weakly. On what grounds? Perfect test scores? Being creepy? That's not how military justice works. Then what do we do? I had been asking myself the same question. Traditional discipline clearly wouldn't work. Intimidation had failed. Threats were meaningless. Crix was playing a game with rules I didn't fully understand, and winning effortlessly. We needed something unexpected. Something outside the normal academy framework. Something that would force Crix to adapt instead of exploit. The solution arrived 3 days later in the form of Transport Shuttle 7. I was reviewing the quarterly supply manifest when I noticed the passenger addendum. One incoming transfer student, approved through some bureaucratic channel I'd never heard of, sponsored by a diplomatic office that seemed to exist in a regulatory gray area. Species designation: human. I stared at the entry for a long moment. Humans. The galaxy's newest additions to the interstellar community. A species that had somehow developed faster than light travel, while still believing in things like luck, destiny, and the healing power of soup. A people whose military doctrine included concepts like acceptable losses and calculated risks, and hold my drink while I try something stupid. We'd all heard the stories. Humans who'd talked their way out of firefights through sheer audacity. Human engineers who'd repaired impossible damage through what they called improvisation and everyone else called violation of physics. Human soldiers who'd won battles by doing exactly what no sane tactician would consider. They were unpredictable, irrational, bizarrely effective. And apparently, one was coming to my academy. The shuttle arrived during the morning training session. I watched from my office window as it settled onto the landing pad with rather more grace than I'd expected, given humanity's reputation for barely controlled chaos. The hatch opened. A figure emerged, followed by something that made my optical processors struggle to focus. The human was female, average height for their species, with dark skin and hair pulled back in a practical style. She wore a standard academy uniform that fit better than regulation actually required, moved with an easy confidence that suggested actual combat experience, and carried a shoulder bag that seemed heavier than its size suggested. But it was her companion that held my attention. I'd never seen anything quite like it. 4 legs, thick fur in mottled gray patterns, pointed ears, a long muzzle filled with very serious teeth. Bright, intelligent eyes that scanned the landing pad with obvious tactical assessment. A dog, my database helpfully supplied, Canis familiaris, domesticated earth predator, bred over thousands of years for various purposes, including companionship, protection, and specialized work roles. This particular specimen looked like it had been bred specifically to make other species nervous. I opened my communicator. Malvik, are you seeing this? The human? Yes. Registration shows her name as Jordan Reeves, transferred from Earth Defense Training Institute with full qualifications. I meant the animal. Oh, that's classified as her support companion. Apparently, there's a whole diplomatic protocol about it. Species name is Shepherd. Individual name is... Malvik paused. Ghost. They brought a predator to a military academy and named it Ghost? Humans are weird, sir. That's the first sensible thing anyone said all week. I went down to meet them personally, partly from curiosity, partly from a vague hope that this human might somehow disrupt Crix's reign of plausibly deniable chaos. Up close, Jordan Reeves had the look of someone who'd seen actual combat rather than just simulations. Small scars on her hands, eyes that tracked movement automatically. The subtle tension of someone perpetually ready for trouble. The dog, Ghost, sat at her side with perfect discipline. Those intelligent eyes fixed on me, and I had the uncomfortable sensation of being evaluated and found tactically insignificant. Cadet Reeves. I extended a hand in the human greeting custom. Welcome to Galactic Defense Academy. She shook firmly, neither too aggressive nor too weak. Thank you, sir. Permission to bring Ghost into the training areas? Your companion is cleared for all standard facilities. I glanced at the dog again. Does he understand commands? She, sir. And yes, perfectly. Ghost is trained for tactical support, threat detection, and emotional stability assistance. She's been through more combat zones than most of your instructors. The dog's tail wagged once, as if agreeing. Fascinating. Well then, let me show you to your quarters. I should warn you, we've been experiencing some technical difficulties lately. Technical difficulties? Jordan's tone suggested she didn't believe that for a second. Smart human. Let's call them growing pains, I said diplomatically. There's a cadet who's been testing our systems. Testing or breaking? The distinction has become philosophical. We walked toward the dormitory wing, Ghost padding silently beside Jordan with the eerie grace of a professional predator. Other cadets stopped to stare. Some looked curious. Most looked nervous. One Mantix recruit actually backed away, antennae flattening against their skull in a classic fear response. Your companion seems to have an effect on people, I observed. Ghost has that gift. She looks dangerous because she is dangerous, but she's also loyal, smart, and surprisingly good at reading situations. Jordan smiled slightly. We're a package deal. Where I go, she goes. No problems with that here, though I am curious about the tactical support designation. Ghost can detect chemical signatures, read body language across species, identify threats through auditory and olfactory analysis, and provide tactical assessment through behavioral observation. She's also extremely good at knowing when someone is lying. My interest sharpened. Really? Really? Humans and dogs co-evolved. We learn to read each other on instinctive levels. Ghost picks up on cues I might miss, and I pick up on signals she sends. We reached the dormitory wing, which was thankfully experiencing normal gravity at the moment. I showed Jordan to her assigned quarters, watching as Ghost immediately swept the room with professional thoroughness before sitting and looking at Jordan with clear approval. "Room secure," Jordan translated with amusement. "She takes her job seriously." I like her already. And I meant it. There was something refreshingly straightforward about the dog's approach. No politics, no hidden agendas, just clear assessment and response. "When do I meet the cadet causing problems?" Jordan asked casually, unpacking her bag. "What makes you think that's relevant to you?" "Because you specifically mentioned it within 2 minutes of meeting me. Because you're hoping I'll somehow shake things up. Because this academy is clearly desperate enough to accept transfers from a species that's barely been in space for a century." She turned, eyes sharp. "So, who's the troublemaker?" I found myself liking this human more by the minute. Cadet Crix, Virillion. Dangerously intelligent, perfectly innocent, and somehow responsible for 17 major system failures in 2 weeks. 17? Jordan whistled softly. That's impressive. That's terrifying. Tomato. When do I meet them? Dinner formation in 2 hours. I strongly suggest arriving early. Worried. I'll cause trouble? Worried you'll become a target. Jordan smiled, and it reminded me uncomfortably of Crix's expression. All teeth, no warmth. Sir, with respect, I grew up in Detroit. Survived 3 colony wars. Trained with the meanest humans Earth could produce. If some academy brat wants trouble, they'll find I'm fluent. Ghost barked once, short and sharp. Agreement, clearly. I left them to settle in, feeling an unfamiliar sensation building in my chest. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, we'd found something Crix couldn't anticipate. Couldn't manipulate, couldn't terrorize. The dinner formation proved me both right and catastrophically wrong. The dining hall at 1800 hours was, for once, functioning normally. No nutritional pace disasters, no shrieking whale sounds, no inexplicable gravity fluctuations. Just 300 cadets standing in precise formation, waiting for the authorization to eat. I watched from the instructor's platform as Jordan entered with Ghost at her side. The reaction was immediate and predictable. Conversations died. Heads turned. A Yurlon cadet near the entrance actually growled, which Ghost answered with a look of such profound disinterest that the larger alien stepped back. Jordan moved through the formation with easy confidence, finding her assigned position without hesitation. Ghost settled beside her, alert but calm, radiating the kind of quiet competence that came from actual field experience. Then Crix arrived. The Virillion entered from the opposite door, forearms swinging in perfect rhythm, yellow eyes scanning the room with predatory assessment. The usual wave of nervous energy preceded the kid like a psychological shockwave. Until those eyes found Jordan. Crix stopped mid-stride. Just for a heartbeat, maybe less, but I caught it. The first genuine surprise I'd seen cross that calculating face. Ghost's head tilted slightly, ears forward, studying Crix with obvious interest. And Crix, for the first time since arriving, looked uncertain. The moment passed. The Virillion continued forward, taking position 3 rows behind Jordan. But I noticed those yellow eyes kept flicking back to the human and her companion, something between curiosity and caution in their gaze. "Formation! Attention!" Commander Threx's voice boomed. "Authorization granted. Commence meal service." The cadets moved toward the serving stations in orderly lines. I watched Jordan collect her tray, noticed how she selected food with deliberate efficiency. No wasted motion. Ghost stayed close, ignoring the various cadets who gave them wide berth. They found a table near the viewport overlooking the training grounds. Jordan sat with her back to the wall. Good tactical positioning. Ghost lay beneath the table, head up, watching. Crix collected a meal and walked directly toward them. "Oh no. Mind if I join you?" The Virillion's voice carried that same musical pleasantness, but something underneath had shifted. Less predatory, more genuinely curious. Jordan looked up, met those yellow eyes without flinching. "Free station." Crix sat down across from her, carefully arranging 4 hands around the meal tray. For several seconds, they simply studied each other like chess players before a match. "Jordan Reeves," Crix said finally. "Earth origin, transferred under diplomatic protocol, accompanied by a tactical support animal. Your records are surprisingly sparse for someone with your apparent experience." "Crix of Praxis 4, Jordan replied calmly. "Perfect test scores, suspected of 17 system sabotages, 0 confirmed disciplinary incidents. Your records are surprisingly perfect for someone causing this much chaos." A smile flickered across Crix's face. Real this time, not the empty expression usually deployed. "You've done research." I asked around. Cadets talk, especially when they're nervous. "And are you nervous?" Jordan took a bite of something that resembled protein, but probably wasn't. "Should I be?" "Most are." "I'm not most." Jordan gestured vaguely at the dining hall. "So, what's your game? Boredom? Testing limits? Trying to prove something?" The directness seemed to catch Crix off guard. "You don't waste time on pleasantries. Life's short. Questions are efficient. You're clearly brilliant, clearly dangerous, clearly playing some kind of long strategy. I'm curious, why?" Crix leaned back, 4 arms crossing in a complex pattern that suggested deep thought. "Would you believe I'm conducting an experiment in systemic vulnerability?" "Sure. Would you believe I'm here to learn interspecies cooperation and expand humanity's galactic standing?" They both smiled at the transparent lies. "The truth is simpler," Crix said quietly, glancing around to ensure no instructors were in earshot. "This academy pretends to train warriors. It actually produces obedient functionaries. Every exercise is designed to be passed. Every challenge has an approved solution. Every cadet graduates believing they're prepared for real conflict when they've only learned to follow protocols. So you're breaking protocols to prove a point. I'm exposing weaknesses so they can be addressed. A military academy that can be disrupted by one cadet with basic technical skills isn't preparing anyone for actual warfare." Jordan considered this, absently dropping a piece of food under the table, where Ghost caught it with practiced ease. That's either extremely principled or extremely arrogant. Can't it be both? Usually is. Jordan studied Crix carefully. But you're also scaring people who don't deserve it. That support staff member who had a panic attack when gravity inverted? She was just trying to do her job. Something flickered in those yellow eyes. Not quite guilt, but close. Collateral damage. Convenient excuse. The words hung between them, sharp and challenging. I held my breath, waiting for Crix to react with anger or dismissal. Instead, the Virillian laughed. Actually laughed, a sound of genuine amusement that made nearby cadets turn and stare in shock. "You're different," Crix said. "The others either fear me or try to appease me, or report me to instructors who can't prove anything. You just called me out directly." "Because I get it," Jordan said. "I do. Systems need testing. Authorities need challenging. But there's a difference between exposure and cruelty. You want to make this place better? Fine. But stop hurting the people who have no power to change anything." Ghost's tail wagged once, a gesture of approval that Crix noticed. "Your companion agrees with you." "Ghost usually does. She's an excellent judge of character." Crix studied the dog with new interest. "I've read about Earth canines. The symbiotic relationship between your species is unique in the known galaxy. No other civilization domesticated another predator and built an entire co-evolutionary bond." "We're good at making friends with things that could eat us," Jordan said dryly. "Humans are weird that way." "Clearly." Crix paused, then extended one hand across the table. "Truce? I'll reduce my activities to targets that actually matter. Avoid collateral casualties. You don't report me to the instructors." Jordan looked at the offered hand for a long moment. "What makes you think I have any interest in helping you?" "Because you're just as bored as I am. Because you see the same flaws I do. Because—" Crix hesitated, vulnerability creeping into that careful voice. "Because I haven't had a real conversation with anyone since arriving. And I'm lonely. And you seem like someone who might actually understand." The honesty was startling. Raw. Completely at odds with the calculating terror Crix had presented for weeks. Jordan took the hand, shook once, firmly. "Deal. But I get to supervise your activities. Make sure they stay ethical." "You want to help me sabotage the academy?" "I want to help you improve it. There's a difference." They released hands, and I realized I'd been watching a negotiation that fundamentally changed the academy's power dynamics. Crix now had an ally, a conscience, and a tactical advisor all in one package. This would either solve all our problems or make them exponentially worse. Probably both. The next morning, I received a message requesting my presence at Simulation Bay 4. The sender was listed as Cadet Reeves, which immediately triggered my concern protocols. I arrived to find Jordan and Crix standing in front of a holographic display showing the Academy's security architecture. Ghost sat between them, looking insufferably pleased with herself. "Before you panic," Jordan said, without looking up, "we have a proposal." "That starts with you accessing restricted security files?" "We didn't access anything," Crix said innocently. "These files were accidentally made available due to a tragic system malfunction." "Tragic," I repeated flatly. "Devastating," Jordan agreed. "Anyway, we found 12 major security vulnerabilities that could be exploited by hostile forces. We'd like permission to demonstrate them through controlled exercises." I stared at them. "You want authorization to sabotage the Academy?" "We want authorization to conduct legitimate security testing," Crix corrected, "with oversight, documentation, and recommendations for improvements. Think of it as advanced tactical assessment training." "We even made a proposal document," Jordan added, pulling up a file that was far too professional and detailed for two cadets to have created overnight. complete with risk mitigation strategies and learning objectives. I scrolled through the document, my headache returning with reinforcements. The plan was actually brilliant. Each demonstration would expose a real weakness while teaching cadets about creative problem-solving and defensive thinking. The risks were manageable with proper supervision. The educational value was undeniable. It was also completely insane. Let me understand this correctly. You want me to authorize chaos so you can teach order? Basically, yes, they said in perfect unison, then looked at each other with matching grins. Ghost barked, supportive as always. Why would I possibly approve this? Jordan's expression turned serious. Because Crix is right. This academy is producing predictable soldiers. Real enemies won't follow your approved tactical scenarios. They'll do unexpected things, exploit weaknesses you didn't know existed, attack from angles you never considered. If we can teach cadets to think creatively and defend adaptively, they'll actually be prepared for genuine threats. And if your demonstrations cause actual harm? They won't, Crix said with absolute certainty. Jordan's agreed to supervise. She has experience with real combat, real consequences. She'll keep me ethical. Plus, Ghost is an excellent early warning system, Jordan added. She'll alert us if anything gets genuinely dangerous. The dog's tail wagged with professional confidence. I should have said no. Should have reported them both to Commander Threx. Should have shut down this entire ridiculous proposal before it gained momentum. Instead, I heard myself saying, one demonstration, fully supervised. If it goes badly, this entire arrangement ends immediately. The matching smiles they gave me should have been my first warning that I'd just made a terrible decision. Their first demonstration was scheduled for 3 days later during advanced tactical training. I'd deliberately chosen an exercise that was considered foolproof, a hostage rescue simulation that had been run successfully for 12 years. 200 cadets gathered in the observation deck overlooking the simulation arena. Commander Threx stood beside me, ridge plates already glowing with skeptical irritation. This is a mistake, he muttered. Probably, I agreed, but possibly a useful one. The simulation began. A standard scenario. Hostile forces holding civilians in a fortified structure. Multiple entry points. Electronic security systems. Time pressure. The cadet team moved with textbook precision, following approved tactics exactly as taught. Then everything went beautifully wrong. The building's security systems suddenly activated at maximum threat level. Doors sealed. Windows polarized, internal defenses engaged. The entire structure transformed from a rescue target into a lethal fortress. The cadet team froze, training failing them completely. This wasn't in any scenario they'd practiced. What's happening? Threx demanded. Jordan's voice came over the communications system, calm and professional. Demonstrating vulnerability 7. If hostile forces can access defensive protocols, they can turn them against rescue attempts. Crix is running a counter-intrusion program. Estimated resolution time, 90 seconds. On the arena floor, chaos continued. The cadet team tried standard override procedures, which failed. Tried forced entry, which triggered simulated defensive fire. Tried retreat, which was blocked by sealed exits. Exactly as it would happen in real combat against a prepared enemy. Then Ghost barked once, sharp and commanding. The cadets looked toward the observation deck where Jordan stood beside the dog. She made a series of hand signals, quick and decisive. The team leader, a Krellian named Vosh, hesitated only briefly before responding. The team split into 3 groups. One created a distraction at the main entrance. Another used cutting tools to breach through an unexpected weak point in the structure's corner. The third provided covering fire and evacuation support. Creative, adaptive. completely outside approved protocols. And it worked. 73 seconds after the crisis began, the hostages were secure, and the team was repositioned defensively. Cricks's program released control of the building systems, and the simulation ended. The observation deck was completely silent. "Well," I said eventually, "that was educational." "That was unauthorized chaos," Threx growled. But his ridge plates had faded from angry red to thoughtful orange. Though admittedly effective chaos. Jordan and Cricks entered the observation deck with Ghost padding between them. Every cadet in the room tracked their movement with expressions ranging from fear to fascination to grudging respect. "Thank you for the opportunity, sir," Jordan said formally. "Our report will detail the vulnerability and recommended countermeasures." "And the hand signals you used?" I asked. "Basic tactical communication. Non-verbal, adaptable, useful when electronic systems are compromised. Ghost and I can teach it if you'd like." "The dog can teach hand signals?" "Ghost can do a lot of things." Jordan scratched behind the dog's ears affectionately. "She's an excellent instructor." Over the next 6 weeks, Jordan and Cricks ran 17 more demonstrations. Each exposed a genuine weakness in our systems or training. Each forced cadets to think creatively rather than rely on memorized responses. Each made the Academy measurably better at producing actual warriors instead of obedient functionaries. The partnership was remarkable to watch. Cricks provided the technical brilliance and tactical creativity. Jordan supplied the ethical framework and combat experience. Ghost offered threat assessment and an uncanny ability to sense when exercises were becoming genuinely dangerous. And slowly, grudgingly, the Academy transformed. Cadets started questioning tactics instead of blindly following them. Instructors began designing genuinely challenging scenarios. The culture shifted from comfortable predictability to productive uncertainty. Even Commander Threx admitted improvement, though his ridge plates still glowed skeptical orange whenever Cricks was mentioned. The final demonstration came during graduation week. Every senior cadet, every instructor, every visiting dignitary gathered for what was announced as a standard tactical assessment. What they got was Jordan, Cricks, and Ghost running a full-scale infiltration exercise that exposed every remaining weakness in the Academy's defensive protocols simultaneously. It was beautiful chaos, elegant confusion, a masterpiece of creative problem-solving that would have been genuinely dangerous if not for the meticulous safety protocols they'd established. When the exercise ended and the Academy's systems returned to normal, the assembled crowd stood in stunned silence. Then someone started clapping. A single cadet, then another, then entire sections. Not polite applause, but genuine appreciation for what they'd just witnessed. Jordan and Cricks stood on the demonstration floor, looking exhausted and satisfied. Ghost sat between them, tail wagging with professional pride. I made my way down from the observation platform, aware that this moment represented something significant. A shift in how the galaxy approached military training. A recognition that genuine preparation required embracing uncertainty rather than eliminating it. "Congratulations," I said when I reached them. "You've successfully traumatized an entire academy into becoming better at their jobs." "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me," Cricks replied with a genuine smile. "We'll need to formalize this into actual curriculum," I continued. "Both of you, teaching positions when you graduate, if you're interested." Jordan and Cricks exchanged glances, some wordless communication passing between them. "We're interested," Jordan said, "on one condition." "Which is?" "Ghost gets official faculty status. She's done more teaching than half your current instructors." I looked down at the dog, who looked back with those intelligent eyes that had watched and learned and guided for months now. "Done," I said. "Professor Ghost has a nice ring to it." The dog's tail wagged agreement, and I could have sworn she smiled. 3 years later, the Galactic Defense Academy's creative tactical program had become the most respected training course in 7 spiral arms. Other academies copied our methods. Military strategists cited our approach. Entire species updated their doctrine based on lessons learned from 2 unlikely cadets and their remarkable dog. Crix graduated top of class, as predicted, with full honors and a reputation as the most brilliant tactician in a generation. Jordan graduated second, by choice, preferring to let her partner have the spotlight. Ghost graduated with more treats than any other faculty member in history, and the Academy never experienced another unexplained system failure, though rumors persisted that late at night, in secured training facilities, strange things still happened for the benefit of students who needed to learn that real warfare rarely followed approved protocols. Me? I retired eventually, satisfied that we'd created something genuinely valuable. Something that prepared warriors for actual conflict, rather than comfortable simulation. All because one terrifying cadet met one exceptional human and her intelligent companion. The galaxy was safer for it, though I still maintain that Ghost deserved tenure first.